the Auditor General Johnson Ekwuama Asiedu to invoke his constitutional powers to surcharge all 35 companies and individuals to recover the full amount. Minister for Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa has disclosed that the United States government has assured Ghana it will not stand in the way of efforts to extradite former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and former MASLOC Chief Executive Officer Sedina Tamakloe Attionu. The assurance was conveyed during a high-level engagement between officials from the ministry and a United States delegation led by acting U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Rolf Olson. As part of a comprehensive review of Ghana-U.S. bilateral relations, Mr. Ablakwa made the disclosure in a Facebook post on Wednesday, January 14, following the meeting held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. According to the minister, the United States government indicated that without prejudice to ongoing judicial processes, it would not obstruct Ghana's efforts to secure the removal of Ofori-Atta and Tamakloe Attionu from the U.S. to face legal proceedings in Ghana. The Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority has intercepted a major consignment of illicit drugs and undeclared goods at the Atlantic Terminal Services Limited in Takoradi. The seizure involved two 40-foot containers imported by one Maxwell Boating, which were found to contain 25 million tapentadol tablets, a prescription opioid not approved for use in Ghana, alongside thousands of undeclared ceiling fans. According to a situational report, the containers were initially declared as carrying ceiling fans. However, routine inspection by frontline customs officers revealed unusual packaging, prompting further scrutiny. A political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Akwesi Amachi Boatin, says the new patriotic party remains in deep trouble, blaming the situation on the actions and inactions of its current leadership. Dr. Boatin argued that the party has been in crisis for an extended period and is compounding its own problems. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much for the details and the summaries that you've brought to us. Let's settle for the details of the stories now. And your comments are always welcome, so do send them to us on our Facebook and on our YouTube page where this bulletin is streaming. The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has disclosed that the United States government has assured Ghana it will not stand in the way of efforts to extradite former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and former MASLOC Chief Executive Officer Sedina Tamakloe Attionu. The assurance was conveyed during a high-level engagement between officials from the ministry and a United States delegation led by acting U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Rolf Olson, as part of a comprehensive review of Ghana and U.S. bilateral relations. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa made the disclosure in a Facebook post on Wednesday, the 14th of January, following a meeting held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. According to the minister, the United States government indicated that without prejudice to ongoing judicial processes, it would not obstruct Ghana's efforts to secure the removal of Ofori-Atta and Tamakloe Attionu from the U.S. to face legal proceedings in Ghana. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives has voted to extend by 3 years the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGWA. AGWA grants duty-free access to the U.S. market for eligible African countries and products. In a moment, we'll speak to Professor who has also been following this particular subject very closely and what Ghana's relation with the U.S. Means going forward. And it also looks as though this has delved or brought into sharp focus other major issues that other people have been expressing regarding Ghana and U.S. relations. Let's speak to constitutional lawyer John Kwesen, who has joined us for a quick chat on this. Mr. Kwesen, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, my good friend, and greetings to all your listeners also.
Right. To start with, there's been a long conversation in the country about the acts of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who what we all do know now is that he is in detention in the United States of America. The Foreign Affairs Minister is giving, yet another confirmation that the U.S. government says they are going to actually assist Ghana in any way possible to get Ken Ofori-Atta back into the jurisdiction. How assuring is this, especially coming from the U.S. government representatives in Ghana?
Hello?
Can you hear me,
Hello?
sir? Yes.
Yeah. I missed the last part.
Yes, I'm asking that what kind of assurance does this confer? Does this mean to the effort by government to bring Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana? The U.S. reps here say that they are not going to obstruct in any form or way in getting Ofori-Atta to Ghana. What should we make of that?
Okay, that's fine. I think up to date, nothing really has happened as in U.S. involvement in what we are trying to do. On the table, it looks as if the American government is not even interested in Ghana and then our affairs. Whatever is going on, it's none of their business. That's the body language. And they indicated to us right from day one when this thing happened. You can also deduce that from the body language of our ministers. Okay, and every now and then when they go public on their public speeches, there's that disconnect, a complete disconnect between us and them. And I think we should accept that as a fact and then move on with the rest of the activities. Now, let me make a quick comment on where we are now at the moment. Last week, I did indicate that if there's anything to go by, and if there's any form of assistance, whether directly or indirectly, that Ghana is going to obtain from the government of the USA, then it's going to be using the conduit of the deportation, you see, so that it will be like an ordinary thing and nothing to do with collaboration between the U.S. government and the Ghana government. That's how I see it. Deportation, because it's an ordinary thing, it could happen to anybody at all. And if you look at it, the whole finance minister of a strong country like Ghana, and look at the kind of treatment he received, the detention center. You see, when I did a bit of research, maybe I'm wrong also, they said that place, every commoner at all, you could be kept over there.
Right.
So it means they are not even thinking about your bag and where you can, whether you're a big man or not. And we feel this is not what should happen to a citizen of our country. Much so somebody who was a finance minister. And if there's anything Ghana could do, it should have been in that diplomatic sense. I feel it should have been how the detention is being handled. Right. And then also, our foreign mission should be worried about whether the treatment they gave him was okay. From that angle, before you even think about the detention bit, because whether you like it or not, he still remains a citizen of this country.
Right.
He's also served the country, whether negative or positive.
What we
whatever
know,
thing comes later. Yes,
what we know is that Ghana's mission in Washington, the ambassador, that is Ambassador Victor Smith, I'm sure you must have heard. They said that they extended some diplomatic assistance to him, but he refused and said that he could only allow them to either speak to him or give him any kind of assistance in the presence of a lawyer. That's a position you would agree with, right?
No, that is the personal aspect. I'm talking about the interrelationship between Ghana and the USA.
Yes.
That our citizen is being kept here. Ghana also has a right to find out. Do you get my point? The communication shouldn't be focused on what Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta will say. The communication should be between Ghana and then the USA. The foreign mission should be facilitating that. That's the aspect I'm trying to talk about.
Okay.
As it were, the ambassador went there to see him, but I'm talking about the one that he will relay, okay, from Ghana to the U.S. government and vice versa. That's the point I'm trying to focus But moving forward also, you could deduce, and as I have indicated and stamp authority on, that Ghana government has done a lot. And then they always go on extradition. Let me say something later. Extradition is not an easy thing. And it doesn't come so easily like that. You see? So it amazes me anytime the Americans want somebody from Ghana, then we are quick. Look at the speed, the energy with which we are able to prepare our own citizens. They go to somebody's country and be jailed. It's not an easy thing, no. Hardly will you hear any country selling their own citizens, no matter what the crime.
Right.
It's very difficult for any country to do that. But you see, Africans and our mentality, when we hear America, we feel it's heaven. So we are even able to push our citizens. Where are you?
Right.
All of you go to America.
But Council, would it not be that it is also based on the level of evidence the country presents, for which reason they need the citizen or whoever it is that they are hoping to
extradite? That is why I'm saying that extradition is never an easy thing. No matter the crime the person has committed, Americans will never extradite their citizen to any country. Are you saying that is other countries that only commit crimes? Americans also have citizens that are involved in dangerous crimes elsewhere. As long as you remain in their country, they will never sell you out. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
And it's not only America, UK, the Arab world, everywhere. They will never extradite you.
I understand and I actually agree with the point you make. But in this case, there are two issues we are looking at. The government is interested in Ken Ofori-Atta for a totally different reason and are hoping to get him into the country. Part of the reason is part of the process is to extradite him. So this one, it is not an American citizen in America that Ghana is interested in. It is a Ghanaian
No. Extradition, as we all understand, is that your country needs you in another. Meanwhile, you are domiciled in another country at the moment. Do you get it?
Yes.
So your country needs you back home. That's what I'm saying. That if there is a I don't know how to even put it. The extradition aspect, and then the deportation. The extradition has to be with you being in somebody's country and your country needing you. And then the deportation will rather favor the Americans because they feel you have harmed their country.
Right.
In extradition, you have harmed your own country. So whether you did something good or bad, they care less about it. And that's what I'm saying. The Americans wouldn't be interested. You get my point?
Okay.
They wouldn't be interested in the extradition aspect because whatever goes on in your country is your own palaver. But they are much more 100% interested in the crime that you have committed in your country. Okay. That's why on paper and then in practice, they seem to throw more weight on the deportation bit. Or the deportation affects them because you committed crime there. We heard or read in the news that the Trump administration gave him up to November something to leave their country. In fact, he had been stripped of his visa. You know, Trump came and he wasn't joking, especially with this immigration stuff. And you know, Trump, his own best friend, Elon Musk, he had to even blast him along the line. So you being a minister in somebody's country, he cares less about you. Do you get my point?
Yes.
So indirectly, that is where we can also benefit from as a country.
But
and
if the U.S.
last week,
but sorry for cutting in. If the U.S. wants to deport Ken Ofori-Atta, it would still be sort of linked to Ghana's interest in having Ofori-Atta in the country, right?
That's what I'm saying. It will be an indirect benefit to us.
Right.
Of course, they are also mindful and conscious of the fact that we've been appealing to them for so long a time. And they might not want to come public for us to be enjoying that they were the ones who assisted us in getting Ken Ofori-Atta. So that will be on our record that the Americans let Ken Ofori-Atta out.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Historically, if you read Ghana's politics, the Ken Ofori-Atta is coming from a town in Ghana here, Chibi area, Chem. The whole country politically, because of our history, Achim is more connected to the American government to any town in Ghana here. And not just at Achim, the lineage of Ken Ofori-Atta, they have something direct to do with U.S. government, whether good or bad. I don't want to go into details. And Ken Ofori-Atta himself has lived in U.S. for a very long time. So, variously, we might not know the meetings and the agreement, whether personal or family-wide, they've also had with the U.S. government. So, at this point in time, maybe Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta might also need the U.S. to scratch his back also. Now remember, in 19 so my forefathers helped you in this way. In 2020, whatever, when you needed something in Ghana, we too, myself and our family, we also help you. So at this point, they are going to kind of crucify me in my own country.
Right.
You to remember the good things I've done for your country before. And then don't sell me out, all like that. We might be joking with some of these things, but politically they make sense in a way. And that's why I'm saying the extradition will be difficult for the Americans. And true, check the records. Since the issue happened, the Americans have been indifferent on this issue. They don't want to say anywhere that they are collaborating with the government.
Right.
And that is why and even that is because Donald Trump is a no-nonsense man.
Right.
And that's why even the deportation is becoming an issue.
It probably would have dragged even further had it not been.
And his citizenship wouldn't have been revoked to begin with. He didn't just go a month or two. He went a long time ago.
Right.
Do you get it?
Okay.
So if they are bold to revoke your citizenship, it was a first step. And I was thinking that Ken should have taken some remedial measures to kind of also purge himself out. But he didn't, and he still remained there.
Right.
And your visa expired for so long a time. You could have even crossed into Canada. That's a bad advice anyway. But all I'm trying to say is that you don't stay as an educated person and a big man like that. Your visa expired. It's a very serious offense.
Right.
The developed countries don't joke with certain. And that is why I feel indirectly the Americans will let him come back home.
Okay.
And then we can also benefit from that time.
Right. Mr. Kwesi, thank you for your time and your thoughts on this very interesting subject. He is a constitutional lawyer sharing his thoughts on this. Thank you so much, John Kwesi. And still on the subject, though, like we indicated, Foreign Affairs Minister is saying that Ghana and the U.S. have had a better or are seeking to improve their relations on many fronts, including, Ghana being heavily considered for the extension of the AGOA program, which is the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. You'd recall that when the current administration took office, the current U.S. government, I should say, they scrapped and totally cancelled the AGOA program. They suspended it. But what we are being told now is that it is going through a process and then it is likely to be reignited or given another lease of life where Ghana, which is one of the beneficiary African countries, can get to benefit. Joining us now is Professor Daniel Draman Kipo-Sunyehi, who is an associate professor at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, LESIAD. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, dear listeners as well.
Right. What does this mean for Ghana to the extent that the U.S. government has agreed or decided to extend the AGOA program and then remove some tariffs on Ghanaian agricultural products? How can Ghana really take advantage of this?
Yeah, certainly AGOA has been a very good foreign policy as far as U.S. government and Africa, sub-Saharan countries are concerned. It has been there since 2000, and I believe that Ghana has benefited from that agreement. And if it got truncated for some period, and we are hearing that the new administration has renegotiated, and we are most likely to get an extension for the next 3 years. Certainly, that should be good news for us from the agricultural sector, as far as even our fabric and all those goods and chemicals, pharmaceutical, are all products that are part of the AGOA agreement. So certainly it will help us be able to produce more and be able to export to U.S. with very good terms of agreement. And duty-free, it's a good advantage for us, and that is part of the AGWA. So if we have unlimited access to U.S. market, I think that is good news for us in economic sense, and that will go an extra mile to show that Ghana government is doing well as far as economic diplomacy is concerned. So I think this is good news for Ghana.
Right. What would your general assessment be of Ghana-U.S. relations? It has had some ups and downs in recent times, got a bit frosty, but seems to be warming up. The current Foreign Affairs Minister is giving strong indications that the U.S. intends to work closely with Ghana. And from these kinds of meetings, like what he talked about today, there seemed to be that warmth between both countries. Especially if you look at what's happening to the other African countries that are beside and around Ghana, the U.S. has either sanctioned them, visa restrictions, etc. So what is your general view of how Ghana and U.S. are relating in 2026, or our modern relations?
Yes, so a foreign relation will always be like that. Of course, sometimes to point you have a cold relation, a warm relation, and a very friendly relation. In Ghana, U.S., I think we have always been much more to a friendly, or at a point it will just be very low. But the relation between Ghana and U.S. generally is always good. And I believe that our politicians are always able to play well with our traditional foreign policy of non-alignment. Ghana will align to the east, Ghana will align to the west. And so Ghana is always able to play the cards to be able to promote our interests. AGWA is in the interest of Ghana, on agric and fabric, and that is it. And in terms of visa, remember sometime few months ago, Ghana was also part of those countries with restrictions as far as visa for students going will be given. And as Ghanaian students would have suffered so much. So government was able to renegotiate, and these visa restrictions have been lifted. Trump has had several embargoes and a lot of tariffs here and there. But Ghana, I think that we are able to always deal with U.S. in a very diplomatic way, that we are not able to, U.S. does not see Ghana as an enemy state.
Right.
So, and that is the good part of us. So we need to continue to maintain that non-aligned and a very tactical diplomatic relation so that we can always benefit. America is a very powerful country, the largest economy. Ghana need America. And so I always think our leaders are able to play it very well so that we are not on the wrong side of U.S. So that we can have a mutual relation that will lead to mutual benefits to the America and to Ghana.
Right.
And I think that Ghana is on the right track.
Right. And finally, Prof, we know that I think last week or 2 weeks ago, when the U.S. abducted, I think that's the expression many are using, when the U.S. abducted the Venezuelan president, Ghana released a statement, and it got mixed reactions. People said, why would Ghana want to go and meddle in the affairs of the United States of America when they are dealing with another country? But then there are those who also held a different opinion that Ghana is part of the Committee of Nations, so its voice is critical. It can speak on global issues. Where do you sit on this, and could this in any way affect our relations with the U.S.?
Oh, I think the statement released by Ghana's Minister of Foreign Affairs was critically worded and diplomatically right. Ghana's statement did not put any hostility. We just said that, well, the manner in which the guy was picked up could have been done in a very better way. So that was the statement. And Ghana issuing that statement was also very accurate, because it is better Ghana speak. We can't be quiet. What happened in Venezuela can happen in any other country of the global south. So for Ghana issuing that statement was commendable. And I also was expecting that the Continental Body African Union or the Regional Body ECOWAS could have equally carried on the same thing. Condemning an act, the origin such an act, it is a very good one, because Venezuela is a sovereign state.
Right.
If the president has committed an act, Ali would find a very dignified way of doing it than as it was done. So if Ghana condemned it, that does not mean that Ghana relation with the U.S. has gone bad. Ghana always tries to tell America that your approach was right. Your approach, the manner in which you was kidnapped, was right. And that is exactly what Ghana did. But it did not create any diplomatic problem between the two countries. And I think Ghana is always tactical, the manner in which we speak. And that is commendable. We do not take positions. We remain our line position. We're not aligned to the east completely. We're not aligned to the west. We maintain a neutral position. Where there's a need to praise, Ghana will praise. Where there's a need for Ghana to condemn Ghana, if one is condemning, you condemn in a very diplomatic manner.
Right.
That will not create the relation to be where U.S. will see Ghana as an enemy state. And that is the good side of our country. And I think we should commend our leaders for being practical and dealing with the issues. Okay.
Prof, thank you so much for making time to speak with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
And you heard Professor Daniel Draman Kipo-Sunyehi, who is an associate professor at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, LESIAD, at the University of Ghana. Your thoughts are also very welcome. Do send them to us. We are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. It is 3FM 92.7. Let's go to some other stories this evening. And you'd recall that the issue of Agenda 111 is back on the front burner. The Ghana Audit Service has issued a surcharge against 35 contractors, asking them to pay $7.9 million US, which is approximately 94.6 million Ghana cedis, back to the state. The amount was paid to them as mobilization fees to execute Agenda 111 hospital projects on 19 sites. Out of that, $11.16 million was paid to the contractors, and they together executed the work, which was valued at only $5.96 million. An additional $4.3 million was paid to 11 companies who together executed up to $2.4 million worth of inception work, leaving $1.9 million of work not done before their contracts were terminated. After receiving the various mobilization sums paid between December 2021 and December 2024, some of the contractors being surcharged failed to move to the site, and others did execute work less than 10% of the value of the payments that they received. The findings are contained in a validation review after a special audit into the contracts of Agenda 111 contracts. The findings have compelled the Auditor General Johnson Asiedu to invoke his constitutional powers to surcharge all 35 companies and individuals to recover the full amount. The audit, which examined payment records and conducted physical inspections of project sites, uncovered a pattern where contractors received the standard 10% of their contract sum as mobilization intended to fund preparatory works and expedite commencement, but delivered little to nothing in return. Let's pick the thoughts of anti-corruption campaigner Adam Senanu, who has joined us for a quick chat on this. Mr. Senanu, good evening to you. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Happy New Year to you and all listeners as well.
Are you surprised, like a few people have already expressed, are you surprised about the fact that the Auditor General's findings clearly show that, yes, payment was done, but in some cases, less than 10% of work was actually done?
No, I'm not surprised at all. There is this practice that mobilization is just money to put in your pocket. Even though typically mobilization should achieve about four purposes. First, the movement of equipment and tools to the site. Secondly, the clearing of the site and establishment of some temporary, facilities or accommodation. Also, the third, probably engagement of some staff, labor, and then a little bit of working capital so that you are not, find yourself in difficulty when you have to execute. But often we find that persons just use the money for other things. So I think what the Auditor General is saying is basically went to site. There was no evidence that these contractors had prepared the site, nor moved to site, nor engaged the services of anybody to work. And that's why they are saying that this money should be paid back.
And what does this mean for our governance and anti-corruption fight? Are you confident we are likely to get some of these monies back, or probably all of it?
I'm not sure we'll get all of it back. It's likely we could get some. I think it's much more likely if you insisted that people should still deliver on the tasks or projects that they have been assigned. it seems to me also that we may be trying to, as it were, reset the standards and say, when you receive mobilization, don't think it's time to go and buy a car or go and do your own thing and spend the money on yourself and wait for the next, tranche of money before you begin to execute. Because we are going to monitor, we're going to inspect. And that will be a good thing, because the right thing to do is to first deliver on the project, and then from the final payment, you get your profit, you get your payment, etc. So I think it's a good thing, because then we are reassessing the standards. We are ensuring that the ethics of the construction industry are being considered. And I think that the message, if they continue doing this, the message will be clear that mobilization is not pocket money.
And the Auditor General, per the statement we got, has invoked his constitutional powers to surcharge. Can you help us understand what that means? If you're surcharging someone, to the layman, what does that mean?
Well, the power has two aspects. There's the disallowance, and then there's a surcharge. The disallowance is that we have looked at what this payment was made for, and we believe that this payment should not have been made in the first place. So that would be disallowance. Surcharge is where we look at what money has been used for. We think it hasn't been used appropriately, and we are, as it were, charging you for the misapplication of those funds. So between these two, depending on the specifics of the issue that have come up, the Auditor General may disallow and surcharge, or may just disallow so you pay back the money, or in most cases there will be a combination of the two that are applied.
Right. And finally, when the Auditor General does this, are there other state agencies he needs to work in collaboration with to ensure that these contractors actually do pay or return the money, or at least get back to site to work? Does he have help, the Auditor General, that is?
In some instances, when the contractors or whoever has been served with the notice and they do not act on it, the Auditor General may be compelled to go to court to get a court ruling that then empowers the Auditor General to ask the police or some other agencies to go and arrest or to take over the properties of the persons or contractors involved. So you're absolutely right. When it gets to execution, assuming the people are still not able to deliver, the Auditor General will have to work together with the judicial and legal systems and law enforcement agencies to get a resolution of the matter.
Right. Mr. Senanu, pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for having me.
And that is Edem Senanu, who is the co-chair for Citizens Movement Against Corruption and an anti-corruption agent himself, helping us understand what the Auditor General's position is, following the fact that some 35 contractors who had been paid very juicy amounts of money in excess of about 95 million Ghana cedis, and they have not delivered. In some instances, they have actually done less than 10% of what is expected of them, and the Auditor General is asking that they return the monies that were paid to them, or go back to site and complete the projects for which they were paid. So we'll see. I mean, when situations like this come up, it gets into the media, it is discussed, but then attention shifts quickly away onto other subjects. But this is one that is of particular interest, and we'll see whether or not these contractors, 35 in all, are able to deliver on the Agenda 111 projects. And there's also the concern as to whether, when these monies are paid, who then takes responsibility? Should culpability lie with just the contractor, or the payee, which in this case is government, must ensure that the contractor delivers as promised? We are waiting to hear from you as well, because you are part, in fact, it is your money that has been used to pay these contractors. So do share your thoughts with us, and I will be happy to let the rest of the world know what you are thinking about. Staying on issues of health, though, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service, has issued a renewed public health alert urging heightened vigilance over a possible outbreak of meningitis, particularly in communities within Ghana's meningitis belt. The alert, dated January 14, 2026, serves as a reminder of an earlier advisory issued in December 2025 and comes amid the ongoing dry and dusty season, which health authorities say significantly increases the risk of meningitis transmission. According to the Health Ministry, meningitis is a serious and potentially life-threatening disease that causes inflation of the membranes covering the brain and spinal cord. It can spread rapidly, especially in overcrowded and poorly ventilated environments, making early detection and prompt medical care critical to preventing severe complications or death. Health authorities outlined common signs and symptoms of meningitis, including sudden high fever, severe headache, stiff neck or pain when bending the neck forward, nausea and vomiting, confusion, drowsiness, difficulty walking, and convulsions or seizures. In infants, symptoms may include a bulging fontanelle, persistent crying, and refusal to feed. The ministry identified children under 5 years, adolescents and young adults, elderly persons, people living in overcrowded conditions, and individuals with weakened immune systems as the most vulnerable groups. So be advised when you're going out into the public, or at least following this health advisory from the Health Ministry, you want to be cautious of where you go and what you do, because there is an alert. There's a health alert about meningitis and its potential outbreak. Now, the Member of Parliament, well, you must have heard also that in the last 24 to 48 hours, conversations about LGBT has crept up back into the media conversations, and John Ntim Fodjo has hit back. He's a former Deputy Education Minister under the NPP government. Now he has hit back at Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who is the Minister in charge of Government Communications, and accused him of displaying arrogance of power. The retort from John Ntim Fodjo follows what the Information Minister Felix Kwakye Ofosu said at a press briefing earlier today, when he indicated that the concern being raised by John Ntim Fodjo has actually been acknowledged and dealt with accordingly. John Ntim Fodjo has called for the resignation of the Director General of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, as well as the board chairman of NACA, because the physical education manual for teachers had components of it, or a portion, which was defining gender. And based on the definition captured in that book, it said that gender could be male or female, or anyhow an individual feels, which indirectly is inferring that there are more than two genders. So he was inferring, or John Ntim Fodjo was then pushing the argument that it means that the manual is saying that there is a possibility of people being more than male and female. So indirectly, they are bringing in the LGBT, or people who will be lesbians, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer, which is the any other form apart from male and female. And you'd recall that the NPP government took heavy flacking, public condemnation, because they were alleged to have allowed similar things to be captured in an education manual. Well, Felix Kwakye Ofosu has been reacting to this. First, let's listen to what Felix Kwakye Ofosu said, and then we can hear Reverend Ntim Fodjo's position as well. Well, looks as though the sound is not coming, but we should have it right now.
Reverend Ntim Fodjo is a good friend of mine. He's my neighbor. When you move out of AAK, you go into his constituency. So I have quite healthy relations with him. But I think that sometimes he gets carried away. in his advocacy. I have a friend who describes that conduct as overzealous charlatanism. You see, he was in government when the comprehensive education curricula was introduced, and we had similar happenings where there were things in there that we found distasteful and at variance with Ghanaian cultural norms and practices. There was some public outcry. I think that curricula was withdrawn. Even before Reverend Tim Fodjo went out to make these claims, the NACA itself had withdrawn about 700 or so copies of the manual. It is a manual. It's an instruction manual to teachers of physical education and health in senior high schools. I think there's just one line about the description of gender, which proved problematic and offensive to the sensibilities of the people of Ghana. That has subsequently been withdrawn. Indeed, I have been sent a copy of the approved manual by NACA, and it does not contain the offending words. So that matter has been addressed. Government certainly is not about to promote anything that is at variance with Ghanaian culture. So whereas we welcome scrutiny, it's important that such claims are toned down. Overzealous charlatanism, it is not something that we should encourage. It is not necessary to attempt to put what is not there in place. It doesn't help anybody. Yes, you can draw attention. Clearly, this would be a slip, or that somebody was not paying too much attention. You understand me? But it is not government policy to promote conduct that is at variance with Ghanaian culture. And that is that the NACA has taken remedial action and the matter stands resolved.
Right, so that is Minister in charge of Government Communications and Presidential Spokesperson Felix Kwakye Ofosu. So now let's listen to what Reverend Tim Fodjo actually said in responding to this response from Felix Kwakye Ofosu.
Contest. Now they've checked the proposals they have brought. Many people have not taken interest in the proposal that relates to LGBT.
Whose child and you have introduced LGBT elements into their teaching and learning materials, teacher manuals, and being taught that they can have sexual pleasures and feelings very absurd, and gender should no longer be about male or female, and it's about whatever they feel, and they can even feel both, and you are poisoning their minds, hundreds of thousands of these children, and we have caught you red-handed and asking you to do the right thing. You are insulting us that we are being overzealous and we are being carried away. So the millions of parents who voted for you, whose children are in this secondary schools, whose taxpayers' money they use to pay you, you are using the taxpayers' money to pay yourself and to print textbooks that are LGBT-laced and poisoned. You deliberately introduce it in. You have been caught red-handed. You have admitted you are going to find a way to remove it. And you are telling these parents that they are overzealous and they are carried away. That is the arrogance of power. This is the most arrogant height that a government can ever express. But that is what Ghana has voted for. So parents, you have voted a government in power, and you voted them who campaigned on deception that they were going to protect you from LGBT elements.
And
now you vote them in power. They are printed.
Reverend Tim Fodjo, who has actually given a very strong position on it. Let's listen to other responses he has been giving regarding why he thought that this was a very dangerous move to have captured it in the manual.
Board chairs have no business being there because they are the gatekeepers and they are the ones that...
we'll bring you that in subsequent bulletins. This is still 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition, and it is live from our studio here at Desanwe Kanda in Accra. Let's go on to some other stories now. The Accra High Court has granted Kwejo Owusu-Bempah, the operations manager of Akonta Mining, a bail of 10 million Ghana cedis with 3 sureties, one to be justified. Owusu-Bempah, together with the NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Ntribo-Siako, aka Chairman Wontumi, are among 5 accused persons charged with multiple illegal mining offences, including felling of trees, abetting and aiding the construction of unauthorized structures at the Tanonim Rim Forest Reserve. Lord Edwasare was in court and has come through with the following report, and we'll bring you that report again later. Meanwhile, the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, has waded or given some perspectives on the current struggle of long queues that many of you may be facing at trotro stations or lorry stations across the capital. The minister says that private transport unions are engaged in rent-seeking activities, thereby creating artificial shortage in the system. The situation is leading to long queues at lorry stations, thereby leading to frustrations among commuters. Speaking at the government accountability series held at the presidency today, the minister said a formal meeting with the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, the GPRTU, to end the artificial shortage is currently being strongly considered.
Regarding the regrettable congestion that has happened regarding public transport, indeed, I got off the line with the Transport Minister barely 30 minutes ago. First of all, what has happened is that there are some transport operators who are engaging in rent-seeking behavior. Because ordinarily, transportation is a largely private sector-driven activity in Ghana. We have these transport unions, GPRTU and what have you, who organize transport systems that convey the generality of our people. For some reason, after the persistent reduction in fuel prices, which led the transport organizations to announce a 15% reduction in transport fares, there are some operators within the system who thought that they could engage in rent-seeking behavior by creating artificial shortages. So, look, that government indeed is looking at it to ensure that those engaging in that activity are brought to order, because there's an agreement between government and the transport unions to fix transportation prices twice a year, unless some extraordinary circumstance dictates otherwise. So we urge the transport operators to adhere to the normal practice. In addition to that, there are quite a number of Metro Mass buses that had broken down. So he has ordered their expedited servicing to ensure that in a matter of days, they are back on the road. But they will operate outside of their normal routes and schedules in order to take care of the present congestion that is going on. The minister also informs me that I think tomorrow or so, he has requested for a meeting with the GPRTU and other transport operators to address the issue of rent seeking, to call those engaged in that activity to order so that the hardship is alleviated. But ultimately, a lot of work is being done to increase the fleet of the metro.
And you heard the voice of Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, who is Minister in charge of Government Communications, and he is also the presidential spokesperson. This is 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition, and it is now time for the latest in the world of business. And Bismarck Husa will bring that to you in a moment.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up tonight, Ghana's economy Ghana's economy shows signs of strengthening as provisional growth rises to 3.8% in October 2025 on the back of strong services and improved industrial activity. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Ghana's economy recorded a provisional growth rate of 3.8% in October 2025, improving from 3% in the same period last year, according to the latest monthly indicator of economic growth released by the Ghana Statistical Service. The year-on-year expansion was driven largely by sustained growth in the services sector and a sharp rebound in industrial activity, even as agriculture continued to lag behind other sectors. Government statistician Dr. Asiedu-Dartey spoke at a press conference on the release of monthly indicator of economic growth October 2025 in Accra.
Overall growth increased from 3% in October 2024 to 3.8% in October 2025, indicating stronger economic performance. Agriculture grew more slowly in October 2025 than same period in 2024. Industry expanded much faster in October 2025 than same period in 2024. Services maintained strong and stable growth over the period. The sustained upward trend in October suggests positive momentum entering the final quarter of the year, and I'm talking about 2025. While monthly figures can be volatile, the data signals continued expansion, particularly from the services and industry sectors.
And that was government statistician Dr. Asiedu-Dartey. Moving on, demand for the US dollar has picked up sharply in recent days as businesses move to restock imports for the rest of the year, putting renewed pressure on Ghana's foreign exchange market and prompting fresh assurances from the Bank of Ghana on cedi stability and forex availability. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report. Data from commercial banks show that bids submitted at the Bank of Ghana's foreign exchange auctions in the first and second weeks of January were dominated by the manufacturing and energy sectors. At one of the recent auctions, the central bank offered about $125 million within a band of 10 cedis 70 pesos to 10 cedis 71 pesos. However, total bids reached about $366 million, highlighting strong demand amid relatively thin supply. Analysts expect pressure on the cedi to persist in the coming weeks as business activity normalizes and some firms prepare to pay dividends to foreign shareholders. Interbank market checks last week showed about $7 million traded within the 10 cedis 71 and 10 cedis 72 pesos range, with analysts estimating a year-to-date depreciation of about 1.63%. Despite the seasonal pressures typical of the first quarter, the Bank of Ghana says there is no cause for panic. The central bank insists it has sufficient reserves and will intervene when necessary under its foreign exchange intermediation program to stabilize the market. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on the rise in dollar demand as businesses restock. Before we go, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana has described the One District, One Factory, 1D1F program, which was a flagship industrialization plan, as a policy failure. The Chamber made this declaration after it conducted a comprehensive review of the program, calling for the urgent establishment of a National Industries Development and Regulatory Authority to prevent recurrence of failed industrial policies to position the country for genuine industrial transformation. CEO Anthony S.K. Morrison said, though 1D1F was presented to Ghanaians as the nation's industrial breakthrough, promising job creation, enhanced competitiveness, import substitution, and export growth, the program has instead entrenched high-cost production, debt distress, and widespread factory underutilization.
I will not call it a success story, but a resilient story, okay, had to fence off about 7,000 acres on their own. That was a raw material that was critical towards the success of the factory. All these were not adhered to. That notwithstanding as well, we also took the pain and looked at some key areas. And the fact that we call it a scam and an unproductive sector is that the program was marketed as Ghana's industrial breakthrough. But in reality, though it promised jobs, competitiveness, import substitution, exports, what we got was it entrenched high cost of production, debt distress, and underutilized factories. If you go around the country, and I can go around the country with you and your cameraman, you will see the 1D, 1F factories that are white elephants all over the country.
And that was Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Anthony Morrison, bringing us to the end of Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, for more stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company.